hazards, but it shows you the idea that you can make a molecule that when there's some kind of stimulus in there, it changes colors. So this is another area that we're developing with these same types of molecules. So the secret to getting funding, and don't tell anybody, for your projects is when you're a synthetic chemist and you're just like, I'm an expert at developing this type of molecule. So the type of molecules we've been talking about tonight that stack on top of each other, you go to all lengths to figure out what those molecules could be used for, and that's how you get your funding for doing your projects. So first you figure out the types of molecules you're interested in, and then you figure out what they can be used for. So our initial interest was this kind of photosynthesis, these electronic materials, but what we've also found is the same types of materials can also be used to make these kind of sensors. All right, so just a summary of what we talked about. When you're a synthetic chemist and you're looking for inspiration for how to change the world, how to enhance technology, look to nature, because nature has a lot of great ideas for how to do things. But just replicating that nature when you're talking about a process is really difficult. You can't always do that. So sometimes you have to go and just use nature as a model for understanding what we should do instead of exactly what we should make. And then, of course, technologies in the future will all depend on this. But the last thing I want to emphasize again is that a lot of times when you might hear, let's say Chris mentioned I got that $250,000 NSF grant, and most of you would read the title of that and say, so what? Okay, why are you cared about the forces between molecules? All right. But what we need to remember about these things is in order to develop advanced materials, we need to understand the fundamental forces that are responsible at the molecular level. And part of our responsibility as chemists is to communicate that to the people who are paying for these projects, that this is what this is useful for. But I would caution you against being dismissive about seeing a project that doesn't sound like it's useful when you're talking about really technical science. This fundamental research is really important for the next generation of technologies, even if we're not communicating that well to you right away. All right, that's enough preaching. Here are my acknowledgement. I have several collaborators that work with me on these projects. I've got lots of support from the college and from the university for these projects. Lots of support from external organizations like the NSF, National Science Foundation, American Chemical Society, Research Corporation, which is a private corporation, WISIS, which is UW's system trying to create intellectual property. And these are all the students who have done most of the synthetic work. When we make molecules, and I say I make these molecules, it really means my students make the molecules usually. So I just tell them how to do it, or advise them how to do it, and then they tell me, no, there's a better way. Anyway, I'll be glad to answer any of your questions.
I'm sort of wondering, as I was listening to you, I was thinking that storing energy, light perhaps, or light in other forms, could be the basis for new sorts of computers and computing systems. We're fast approaching the limit in terms of electronic activity. We're pumping up against the speed. Light has a much faster speed, so light-based computers, optical computers are probably on the horizon. And I'm wondering if technologies like these can be applied.
Yeah, my standard, when I write a grant and I talk about the applications, photovoltaics, transistors, so this is the same technologies we talk about for photosynthesis for photovoltaics can be used for light-emitting diodes, for transistors, all of those areas. That's all in my introduction to my grants. Any other questions? It can be about anything.
If there aren't any other questions, I'm sure Dave will entertain any questions up here later, but I want to thank you for a wonderful lecture and thank you all for coming. The next lecture will be on the 12th of November.